Welcome to the Strategic Project Leader, where we help you leverage strategic project management so you can achieve your goals. Now, here's your host, Bola Alabi.
Hello and welcome to what a great episode on the SPL podcast. This is actually season 2 and I'm super excited to be hosting this show live on air. I want to know, first of all, where exactly are you joining us from? Let me know in the comments because today is not only just going to be impactful, we're going to have fun, we're going to elevate, and we're going to have a clearer path to chat your way to executive leadership. So yes, oh gosh, I'm so excited because beyond anything, I have an awesome leader who I can call a friend. She's pretty much a rock star because she champions the path for not just even project professionals alone, for executives, for organizations to pretty much close the strategy to value gap. So does anyone actually have a guess of who I've got on the show? Can I see in the comments? Because it's one that we've been waiting for this for such a long time. And finally it's actually happening. Let me see in the comments and get your questions in because we're going to be talking about some insightful stuff that's going to be elevating your career to the next level. So before I actually bring her on stage, I want you to know that over the last couple of decades, she's worked across different sectors, different industries. But the thing that she's always been passionate about is about transformation. She's mentored so many people. I've actually been part of that. I've had to still at times, a couple of times, but we're going to be doing a lot more as we dive into the future of project management. So without any further ado, can you please give her a round of applause as we bring on stage Lenka?
Hi, Bola. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. It's a fresh start. It's the new year. It's just beginning of January, so it's just like amazing part of the year.
I know it's such a great time, for us to pretty much restart and recalibrate and just prepare for an awesome year. So let me know, first of all, I can see North Carolina in the house already. I can see Jeremiah from Portland, Oregon. Great to see you. Great to have you here. Now that you guys are already here, right, we want to really dive into this. There's so much to actually unpack, but I know that Lenka has been traveling. I saw your post. You just got back from China. What's new? What's happening? Let's get into that a little before we get into all of these questions. So I know we talk about the strategy to execution gap. And when I think about China, I know that they're doing a lot of work around that. So tell us a little bit about that so we can get excited for what's to come.
So it's a great question. And it's true. I just came back from China from one of our trips. And, PMI is a global organization, so we operate all around the world. We have operations and presence in 8 regions, and China is one of them. So we are visiting all of our regions around the year. And it just happened that China was the first one at the beginning of 2026. So we connected with our teams. We have some, work going on. We are working on some very interesting and exciting projects. And so in my area is something that we call global integration, how we can support our regional teams through our enterprise projects, and then that integration is happening. And what is very interesting, during our visit, we also met an organization, advisors actually, and they were sharing some data about what is happening in the Chinese market, and especially what is happening for international organizations that operate internationally and also in China. And she mentioned a very interesting point for me, that especially when it comes to global project integrations, we really need to find that balance between global direction and local empowerment. And that kind of in my head, because I was thinking that's very smart, because you really want to leverage the talent that you have on the ground, where you still want to pursue your global strategy, but you simply need to find that balance.
I think that's a very, very great point, right? Being able to we'll talk about strategic, looking longer term, also understanding, the local talent, how we can leverage them so that we can pretty much maximize the outcome that we truly want. And I think that's really a great segue to our question, our first one. When we think about this differentiation and we talk about project managers, how can they really differentiate themselves? How can they truly stand out? Because now the market is getting more competitive. We're getting different things in the mix, different methodologies. We're getting, AI and stuff. And how can project professionals truly stand out in this very crowded market today, Link?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And you know, at PMI, we run this research. It's a research around project success. And just very recently, we released the second wave of the research. You know, we started with this research in 2024. We were working with Insight team with a lot of great leaders, global thought leaders, great professionals, executive leaders. And we released the first round of research in December 24. That was about reframing project success. And then indeed, in 2025, what we were doing is trying to find ways how to maximize project success. Where is it coming from? So already in 2024, we introduced the term, the vision for the project profession that we call MORE. And then the research from 2025 is showing the massive impact of MORE in project success. But very interestingly enough, our research is also showing that only, and now Fola, hear it out, 7%, only 7% of project professionals are actually consistently applying all these 4 elements of MORE. So that's a huge potential. So if you ask me, what can project professionals do to stand out? The answer is pretty simple. Join that 7%, increase the 7%, and this is what really makes you stand out.
You hit a very, very important point, right? Only 7% of project professionals are doing more. Only 7% of project professionals, to sum it up, are being more strategic, right? They are going beyond just the cost, time, schedule, and budget. For us to really, we spoke about business acumen, which we were actually part of, writing the thought leadership last year. What exactly do you then think is what's holding PMs back? Is it that are we kind of like in this box that we feel that, we should just pigeonhole in this? Because I'm thinking about the mindset. We've been told, right, we can do a little bit more. What do you think? Because I know you have transitioned, you've done different roles, and I know you've had the drive beyond before we had this path and these methodologies, right? We have had to create it ourselves. We've had to chart this path on our own. What do you think we really need to kind of give PMs a jolt and that push to say, you have this now, let's do it?
Well, that's a $1 million question, right? No, Fola, trust me, I keep thinking about it because like when we do research like that, even that research that you mentioned about business acumen, which by the way, that's coming from our annual report that we call Pulse of the Profession. So, and when we talk about it, sorry to jump around, that report was showing that business acumen is definitely one of the underinvested skills for project professionals. So again, one area, if you invest in that skill, it will definitely make you stand out. And I believe worldwide, it was only, 17 or 18% of project professionals with what we call high business acumen. And business acumen is something that definitely is supporting a lot that application of MORE. So these things are connected. Now, when you ask me that question as you did, so what makes you to transition on that role from that execution to more strategic? I believe it's really a lot of that is in your confidence, but a lot of that is also the choices that you make. I have a story. So it was one organization, it's maybe like 10 years ago. So I was working on a role that was more supportive for projects. My job was to design global processes, design integrations, but I was not executing them. But of course, I was very closely connected with projects. And there was one project that was very important for that organization at the time. It was already second attempt. So a lot of expectations. The previous attempt did not work out. So then they relaunched the project. And I was part of the team. And I was noticing that, again, certain choices that I made on that project will probably not lead to the result. And then you have to make a choice as a person. So what do you do? Do you say like, oh, you know what, guys, I'm just doing my job. My job is this. This is not my job. So I just do my job and you figure it out. Or you actually do something because you prioritize that organization success, that value that project is supposed to deliver, just do something. So, we friends, right? So I'm quite vocal. So I shared my opinion. And then at the end, the project was handed over to me. And it's not that I would take the project and start executing it. I started to challenge the project because the way it was designed, It was simply not really leading to success. So we had to descope, we have to reprioritize, we had to change things, and then we managed to deliver. And this is what I mean. It's not only the confidence that I trust my judgment that yes, if I change it this way, it's going to work, but it's also that dedication that you really care about, really are willing to own it, like step up
Yes.
and own it. And that's a personal choice that everyone has to make. But if your personal choice is to stay just within that execution, which is, by the way, perfectly fine, because
Exactly.
that's so much needed, right? It's so much needed. But certain choices can determine your career. So it's good to ask yourself these questions like, how much am I willing to put myself on the line? But if I want to do it, then just do it. Just go for it.
Yeah, I think you hit a nail on the head. And I was in a conversation just yesterday and I said, guess what? When we talk about doing MORE, being more strategic, it's a choice. You can decide to still be that PM and have a career for 30, 40 years, just execute. There's nothing wrong with that. However, there's so much more that you can actually be if you're willing to reposition and start seeing your career and the organization a little bit differently. And that's what we're going to be diving into. So for those who are actually just joining us, let us know where you're joining us from. We want to say thank you for being here today. Goodness, it's been a minute, but we are just diving deeper. And these particular lessons are what you can apply. Even if you're not a project manager, the idea of creating business value, the idea of delivering something that moves the needle for the organization is one principle that applies even if you're an accountant, you're an engineer, it doesn't matter because projects transcends all disciplines. And so I love that. So Lenka, when we think about that, you were able to ask questions. You looked at your project, said, what could we do differently? How can we really focus on the value for organizations? So when you think about PMs who kind of say, now, I'm just starting, how do I, get out of my shell and start asking those questions and probably start speaking the language that executives actually understand? How can they start doing that?
I think asking questions, this is where you need to
Yes.
start, because building your confidence, expanding your perspectives, finding that strength in you that this is a path that is worth pursuing, it all starts with curiosity. So even if you've been through different things, my advice would be never assume that you know it all, but go there, ask questions. Because even if you operate in the same industry for maybe past 10 years, when you join a new company or you have a new project, the circumstances are always a little bit different. So ask questions,
Yes.
be curious, and just let other people help you understand how things work so that you can make your own opinion and then look for that best way to achieve certain things, whether it's the value that the project is delivering, whether it's finding the right trade-off, the right choice that you should make to, again, lead your efforts to success. And why I'm talking about that curiosity and asking questions, because at the beginning of this episode, we started to talk about business acumen, and that curiosity, asking questions, that's definitely one of the things that you need to do if you want to increase your business acumen, because business acumen is about understanding the context. It's about being able to apply your critical thinking, and overall about developing your judgment and your judgment so that people can trust your judgment, so that you use your judgment to become that trusted advisor for C-suite. This is, again, one of the things that bring you closer to the C-suite and get you to that C-suite table. Getting to that C-suite table, it's not about being excellent in execution. It's really about using your experience, using your curiosity, using your presence to ask the right questions and shape decisions.
Goodness, that's really, really profound. Ask the right questions, being able to shape decisions. Because at the end of the day, when we think about organizations, we are in business for a particular reason, and being able to solve those problems are actually absolutely critical. And at times, I think what I found as well is that PMs kind of believe that I have a role, I have a project charter, I have a mandate. Let me focus on that. And that's great. But when you think about the bigger players, what exactly are the other interconnected layers, right, that we are also trying to achieve? And as you said, being able to stand out from everyone else just means that you are now willing to ask those questions, book those meetings and say, I know my project's about maybe a system upgrade or it's about a new bridge construction, but how does this impact our overall revenue generation longer term? Those kind of questions as well. And I think that's another piece, because I know we're going to have a particular podcast episode on speaking the language, that communication piece, because a lot of PMs really struggle. But when we move from that and we say we have data, what are those strategies can we actually really use to build trust? I know you've mentioned trust there, being a trusted advisor. How can leaders, PMs build trust at that executive leadership level?
Yeah, so trust, it doesn't come from knowing all the answers, right? That it's not that, right? Trust is also not that you always, share only facts. That's good. That's foundational. But I think that people trust you when they can trust your judgment, your observation, your accuracy with which you share your thoughts. So, for instance, that's a big difference when I come and say, this is failing, versus when I say, hey, I noticed a couple of things which I observed on few examples. Right? So being accurate in your communication. Then when it comes to that trust in your judgment, so for instance, for project professionals, I believe it's very important the way we talk about risks. And I think that also talking about risks, that might be one of these areas where the project professionals language and executive language is really different. I work projects as well, and what I notice sometimes that project professionals pay attention to risks, then we can call them execution risk. So for instance, I as a project professional, I see a risk that something will be delayed, I will not have enough resources available, there might be some slippage in the quality of the result because some key person, some key subject matter expert is not available when I need them. And so we consider these risks because they are putting our project delivery risk. But for executives, these are not the risks that they would be interested in that much, because they trust us, project professionals, that we will figure it out, we will sort it out. So that's not what they really enjoy talking about. What they want to understand is, all right, so what puts that project value at risk? So I give you an example, right? So sometimes, let's say that you're developing a new product. So now, what is your thinking? Are you developing just a new product, or are you thinking one step behind? Because that product is supposed to be commercially successful. So are you also thinking, how do I build the capabilities so that that product will thrive, will be successful at the moment when that project, this building the product, is done? Right? So the risk is not that the product will be delayed or will have low quality or something. The risk is it can harm the trust of my customers. The risk is that I create expectations, I create product that I can't operate. This is the business risk, right? And this is what we need to see. And that's a different category of risk than something will be delayed or some expert will not be available when I need them.
I think that's really a major play there. So elevating the conversation beyond just your little piece of the pie. And I think that's where a lot of professionals actually struggle, seeing the bigger picture, connecting risk to, making sure that you're connecting really what truly makes executives wake up at night. Like what keeps them up at night? Those are the things that really keep them up at night. And you being able to solve that is absolutely critical. I'm just going to I think we're already getting some comments coming in, but before we get into that, what would you say? We look at risk. I can see the trajectory now. We look at the conversations we are making. It's black and white to say that you've been able to make that leap and go from just execution and create the path to the executive leadership. What would you say that journey has actually been like? Because you're a typical example of that success story. What has that journey been like? And what would you say are the strategies and tips that PMs can start taking today beyond just the building the trust and whatever? What action steps can they start taking right away now?
Well, so beyond what we already talked about is this business acumen and asking questions and curiosity, which are habits that you can develop. I would also give an advice, look for mentors. And when mentors find you, don't reject them. Just pay attention, learn. I will share one example. So when I started my career, it's like a long time ago, right? I actually started my career in consultancy business, and we were delivering projects, but these projects were always high stakes. And when I joined, I was just like, junior analyst, mostly working with some Excel spreadsheets, like this kind of work. But it gave me space to observe and to listen to conversations and to understand what our clients, which were mostly CEOs, what they're actually interested in. And then I really, really wanted to have my own project. I wanted to manage my project. I was really pushing for that. And then I got that project. So I was like really proud of myself, right? It's like I have my project and I make my own plan, that no one will disrupt, like everything will
You
be
can own it, right?
totally right. I was so excited, right? And so I walk in the room. It was a boardroom with the CEO and his executive team. And, they started to ask me questions which were not at all about my project, but they were questions, for instance, like, so what will be impact of this project on our employees? How will it change? Lenka, how do you make sure that no one will lose a job? How do you make sure that they will learn all of this and things will be different? How are you sure that it will actually work? These are very interesting questions. And that really pulled me out from that comfort zone. Okay, let's do the planning, right? But it was really like, okay, so they don't care about my plan. They really care about that impact of that. And the impact, not only like what will be the impact for business, but what will be impact on employees? What will be impact of new ways of working? How will you make sure that the changes that you want to deliver, that it will stick? And it really made me think about it. And so this CEO, the project, rest assured, was successful. So I actually had another collaboration with him, and I always took him as kind of like a mentor and really paid a lot of attention to. Then, later on, I was in other situations. So there was also a project, and there was a stakeholder, and was supposed to be partnering with us, but he was not. It's a difficult situation. And again, like, you have to make these choices. How do you show your leadership? So at that moment, I have basically two choices. I can go and complain and escalate. The stakeholder is not working with me. He's not helping me. It's putting my project at risk. Or I could face the situation and I could try to understand why the collaboration is not there. What's the issue?
Yes.
Right. And so I can tell you, I was thinking about that for maybe like 2 weeks. And then there was another senior colleague, another executive. And, I just like, let me ask him. And I was thinking, like, embarrass myself or what do you do? But touching about that, I walked in his office, like, look, I need a little bit of help. Can I ask for advice? And he gave me an advice. Face it, just ask him, just go and just figure it out. So, I was like, okay. So I braced myself. I walked in the office. And actually that stakeholder, who was very senior SME, he was looking at me and then he told me what was bothering him. And we resolved it and we became great collaborators for a few years to come. So what I'm saying is that you have to make these bold choices sometimes and get out of your comfort zone. And if you need help, don't be afraid to ask for help. Ask for help senior executives, because they all been through that very probably. So you can trust them that they give you good advice. Follow the advice, use your confidence. And again, you will move one step higher.
I know. And the thing I always say is that executives are only human just like you, right? A lot of the times you feel that, they've got like superhero capes and they can do like, stunts and all that. They have challenges, and you are just meant to be there to help solve their problems, and they're going to listen. As Lenka has said, it's about how you can build trust, but it goes beyond just, having all the reports, but how accurate is information all the time as well. They can always say, I can trust in Joseph, right? I can pick on Toby and say that he has the tools every time and he can always get us answers as well. So when we think about that though, when I look at me, for instance, I'm doing a doctorate research trying to address this gap that exists. We look at strategy that lives in a different world. We look at execution. You were very proactive. Like, they asked you a question. They said, how does it impact our employee? This is kind of like a little bit outside of the realm of like your own project management domain. But it's actually you have built that skill set to be more, forward looking at a bigger picture. How can we start moving executives to begin to see value in what PMs can actually bring beyond just execution. Because when I think about the conversations I keep having, people keep saying, yes, I can do this, but I'm never called to be part of this conversation. How can we really get executives to begin to understand that this group of guys are rock stars and we can actually be more?
So that's another great question. Because, I think that first you need to make yourself visible in a sense that people know that they can ask you that question. So especially when I was in my more junior roles, I was always actively exploring this opportunity. So for instance, imagine that you have a town hall meeting in your organization, you are there, so make sure that you ask a question so that people know that you are there, right? So these are these opportunities that you need to explore, because especially in large organizations with so many teammates, so many colleagues, so how do you actually make yourself stand out? So that
Visibility, Lenka, visibility, right? Being visible. Mm-hmm.
exactly, but okay, so you make yourself visible, but then you need to deliver, right? And that's really, I would call it using your empathy in a sense. Put yourself into the shoes of your counterpart, of your stakeholders, of your leaders, of your executive leaders. By empathy, I mean, like, really try to understand what are the issues that they need to solve for, and then yourself not as what do I want from you, but more what can I give you? How can I support you? How can the work that I'm doing can support your decision making, can enhance your judgment? Because there is one super cool things about project professionals, and I believe, I would say maybe it's a little bit underestimated, but that saved me so many times throughout my career. So project professionals, they are in a unique position. They work on so many cross-functional projects so that they know a lot. Not only know a lot of knowledge, they literally know a lot what's going on in the organization. This is priceless, because when you think about the role of executives, they operate in a little bit different horizon, which they have to, right? Because they need to think more long term. So then what is very valuable for them when you can bring them that information from the ground. And project professionals, one of the few professions, they absolutely have that. And now, so then you need to be smart. What is the information that you want to share? What is the insight that you want to share? What is the judgment that you want to show that will help your executive, and I would say partners? Because in an organization, after all, you are all in the same boat. You just operate in different parts of the boat. So you need to teamwork. So for instance, that's why when I mentioned at the beginning that the confidence is not nothing to do with arrogance. By confidence, I mean that even if someone is executive, someone is vice president, and you are project professional, you are really on the same boat, right? So you can act with confidence and treat them as your partners, not as superiors that I should be like afraid of. Why? Right? Because after all, you are all pursuing the same objective. You have the same strategy. Support.
I think that's one mindset that you've actually just highlighted is actually critical. We are all pursuing the same goal, right? Our overall objective, even if you're a project professional, you're a PMO leader, you're an analyst, the goal of your project director, the vice president, is pretty much to help move the organization forward to ensure that we can achieve our strategic goals and objective. And once you have that mindset, you can come to the table and say, I have a solution to a problem, have options to this, rather than just being the one who pokes hole and says, well, there's a problem, there's a problem. And that's also another mindset that I have been able to leverage, and I teach other people how to do that. Identify problems, but bring solutions as well to say, I believe when it comes to our reporting, we have a delay that's costing us $500,000 every 3 days, whatever. And now I have 3 options on how we can solve that. Then executives begin to say, oh, there's something about, Jeremiah, there's something about Lucy, because they are focused on solutions. Those are the kind of things that help you begin to stand out. And you are then seen as a partner, as Lenka has said, beyond just being an analyst as well. We already have some couple of questions, but we're going to get into that pretty quick. I cannot wait for that. When we think about that, we've moved from the past. okay, we've built trust. We're able to start beginning to speak the language of executives. We're now aligning our goals to that of the organization and making that clearer. What about the overall limitations as well that also come with breaking silence? What I've found as well when I coach all the leaders is PMs or project management is seen more admin as a function. We have other departments who are in other parts of the organization. How can we bring everyone together? I call that kind of confluence so that we can start all working together, because PMOs especially have experienced a lot of issues when it comes to being seen as like administrative governance and bottleneck. And so I believe that how can PMs start positioning different that can bring, different elements together to see us as one big organization, because they are really struggling.
Yeah, so when you talk about how do we overcome obstacles, and there are certain obstacles, that's good thinking, but I would like to flip it, right? I think that if you want to achieve success, if you want to change things, if you want to change perceptions either of your team or of yourself, and you believe that that perception is not great because there are some weaknesses, that there are some legacy, which is totally fair, might be. But I think that what brings you to your success faster is if you really elevate and enhance your strengths. So for instance, when we say PMO is seen as a bureaucratic obstacle instead of collaborator, so then what is my strength as a PMO that will position me as that collaborator? So for instance, again, for project professionals, there is this totally unique situation that they work cross-functionally, which gives them a lot of insights and ability to act as organizational translators. Because again, it's a very normal situation when you have departments, they focus on their job. There are a lot of experts, a lot of specialists. But as a PM, you must have that ability to learn their language, learn their processes, but also language and processes of so many other departments. And this is a great strength. It's a great strength because that creates that ability to translate these languages between different experts, different departments, and bring them closer, help them understand each other. And that's the basis for collaboration. And it's one of the strengths that project professionals have and PMO teams have. And I would recommend to leverage that. So sometimes it's difficult to find with a perception. So instead of saying we are not that, it is more efficient to say we are this. We are translators, we are collaborators, we are bringing teams together, and we are helping them understand what is our common objective.
I think language, it's as I talk about this a lot. It's one really, really underestimated currency that we're not leveraging. The way a team is being positioned, the way your value is being positioned, and having led, PMOs, for instance, across different geographies, I've seen different dynamics play out differently as well. From getting buy-in, it comes into play as to how you position the value you bring to the table, how other teams also understand the value you're bringing, and ensuring that every single time you show up, as you said, we are actually collaborators, we are strategic partners, we are here to solve the problems. We're not just here to help you bring out the next spreadsheet and bring out the next report. So messaging is absolutely key. Let's just take one question that has actually been on the stream for a while, so we can just get into the next segment. So I'm going to give Lenka some time to actually breathe for one moment. There's a question that's here now. I'm going to bring that from Emma, and he said, oh, good. How can organizational adaptability and enterprise agility elevate PMs to participate in organization strategy? Organization strategy. That's a recurring theme now. Yes.
So first I would say, hi, Emma. So we never met, but we know each other from LinkedIn. And I know that is always following. Thank you for your support, Emma. And so Emma knows that I talk a lot about enterprise agility. And so the thing is that enterprise agility is a capability. There's something that is really so much needed because of all the disruption, volatility, and all of that. Now, what is the role of project professionals in that? So again, when we think about projects, sometimes we can position projects as investments. You invest in your future and you want that investment to work and yield results even after the project is finished. Sometimes we talk about projects are launched to solve problems. So you have some problem, you launch a project again, you don't only want to solve the problem momentarily, but you also probably want to bring some systemic solutions so that that problem is solved long term. So all these, either if we think about projects as investments or as things to solve problems, is all about building capabilities that will then take over after the project is delivered. And now these capabilities, the way we build them, the way we design them, these are capabilities that directly contribute to enterprise agility. So it's again about thinking, why are we doing this? Why is it needed? How it's going to work after the project is done, how it's going to support the overall strategy of the organization and that agility that we want to build inside that organization, and then incorporate it in your project.
I think that's it's actually critical because the idea even around even agility overall is one that everyone needs to embrace. Just that flexibility, being able to like create incremental value. I think that's the one thing that's actually major for me. I teach this at all levels. Even if you're not a PM, right? You want to be able to give your customers value as soon as you can, or whatever you can do, bringing people in, creating little iterations. It's one that has actually helped, even move and transform product management. I believe that product management has actually morphed, especially within technology, when it comes to like enterprise agility, when it comes to, the all over the agile mindset as well. Oh, Lenka's drinking her water. I think I need mine now. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So that's definitely great. And Emad, so great to have you here. He's been one of the reasons we had to come back for season 2, right? He kept saying, Paula, when is the podcast coming on? So Emad, thank you so much for being here. A shout out to, we've got so many people who have actually joined us so far. We've got Mohammed, we've got Rosanne, we've got so many people. No, Taken, thank you so much from North Carolina for joining us. So let us keep the questions going, and we're going to be diving into that. I can't even believe we've already gone almost over halfway through the stuff as well. So I think it's a perfect segue for us to go in. Strategic lifestyle. Now we've been talking about a part of C-suite, being more agile, more flexible. How can we leverage all of this skill for personal development? That's what I always believe. We want to help organizations elevate. That's great. For ourselves as professionals. Lenka, how can we use these skill sets for our own personal development?
So one of the things that I would, again, just like recommend as a good habit, if you want to, as you say, elevating yourselves, developing yourself and everything, is to reserve enough time for your self-reflections. Because, we live in a very fast world. There's a lot of expectations, a lot of pressure, constant milestones, deliverables, all of that. So it's very important to carve out enough time for our own learning. And, we all learn differently. So I think that in order to learn, we need to have that inspiration, something that seems like, this is interesting, I would like to learn more about that. But also the time for self-reflection. So when I learn something, that I take enough time to understand how can I apply that, and what am I going to do with that. So not only how do I apply new knowledge that I'm acquiring, but also what did I learn from my past actions, and how it will help me to be better. So self-reflection. Now, inspiration and learning, this is, I think, very individual because, I will confess, I don't read that many books. I typically read books from authors because I feel like, if I meet someone and they give me their book, so let me read that. But then, when I hear something really interesting that is provoking for me, something that I didn't think about, so that, sparks my curiosity, and then I go and read it. And then another source of learning that helps me to develop is really observation. There's a lot of impact by not talking, just by being quiet, observing putting things together, connecting the dots, and then again reflect on that. So these are skills that are very important, especially when we talk about C-suite table, business acumen. Because one of the skills which is there is, how do you read the room? How do you grasp very quickly what is actually going on? And you develop that skill by practicing observation and then reflecting on that. So, oh, this is what I thought at the beginning of the meeting. Then it turned out differently. Why is that? What are these stakeholders looking for? What is important for them? When they say this word, what do they actually mean by that? So reflection. When you see inspiration, again, don't let it just, oh, let me get to that later. No, just jump at it, read something, right? And then observe.
I think that's a good one. You just mentioned something, observe, reflect, read the room, ensure that, you are pretty much matching the energy of what's going on in there. Because at times people want to do too much. It's great to actually want to over deliver, but still you want to manage and see exactly what's going on. And this will obviously help you in your own personal development, in your personal life. You can elevate and take that same mindset to create a better life for yourself as well. I think that's really fantastic. I really want to add that when I think about the overall strategic lifestyle and strategic living that I practice as well, it really, really matches with what Lenka has actually said. A lot of the times when I'm making decisions, I always ask myself, how is this decision today gonna impact me longer term? Is it gonna be more just a short-term win and then longer term not really? Because at times it might have to be some trade-offs, and you have to do that even in business, right? To say, what exactly do we need to let, what choices do we need to make, and how are you just making those decisions? Is it based on profit? Is it based on, a better life? Is it based on revenue or income? You need to have those ideas and those things set out so you can make the right decisions every single time. So have a roadmap, have something that's actually going to help you definitely elevate. I think I'm going to see if we've got some more questions. But before we get in, this is one segment that I really want to dive into, because as I told you, everyone else actually watching, I am doing a doctorate research. And because I'm so passionate about closing the strategy to execution gap and increasing project success, I have been diving into what exactly this whole world will look like when executives and project professionals are part of designing strategy. And when I talk about that, it goes beyond just when we get to project execution, bringing you earlier to the table. And I'm gathering a lot of data. I'm going to be poking at so many other people. But I want to ask Lenka, what are your thoughts? What would the world look like when executives and project professionals collaborate in strategy design?
So as I mentioned before, I believe that project professionals really have that unique access to a lot of information about the information on the ground, what is actually happening in the organization, where are the true strengths and true weaknesses, what people think, what is motivating for employees, for their colleagues, what are the obstacles that they are facing. All of this is a really critical, important knowledge. Now, the question is, how do you work with this information and how do you bring it to that C-suite table so that it's not only like, hey, this is not possible and this will be hard, and but that you now put yourself in the shoes of your executives, take enough effort to understand what they are trying to achieve with the strategy, and then use this knowledge to be that advisor, use your job to help them to make these trade-offs, help them to prioritize. If you achieve to build that credibility of yourself, then you get that seat at the table, and then you are shaping the future of the organization. Now, what I don't want people to think that it's not about, I don't know how to put it. It's not about ignoring problems. It's not about hiding problems, not at all. But the thing is that execution and decision-making, these are very different disciplines. So with execution, let's say you start executing when the decision was already made, which means these trade-offs were already made before. So very simply said, you can't launch 100 projects. You don't have enough time. You don't have resources for that. So, but let's say there are 10 things or 100 things that should be done, right? But you can't launch 100 things. You can launch maybe, let's say, 10. So someone already made a decision about that trade-off. So it will not be these 100, it will be these 10, these specific 10, and this should start now, and this one will start half a year later. These are all trade-offs, because we rarely have only 10 problems, right? Typically we have more.
Yeah.
But once that decision is made, then it's just about execution, right? So if you want to shape that decision, you need to be part of that trade-off discussion. And this is where that advisory comes. That advisory is not like, how do I execute after the decision is made? That's more your skill set, that's more that project management excellence that you have. And again, don't get me wrong, this is critical for success, because we still need to have these projects. Once they are decided, we need to have them executed, right? So this is absolutely critical and extremely valuable skill. And you can have a great career doing that. But if we really have this discussion, how do I get myself at that executive table? You need to make yourself to be part of that discussion about these trade-offs and be able to provide advice and your expert trusted judgment that if we start working on integration of this and that, then we cannot do this, and these are the consequences. So maybe if we do it differently, we will have different consequences, but these consequences will be better for our business.
And I think that's probably like a very, very perfect piece that ties into this next question. When we now think about that, it means that there's a role they have to play. But when you're advising C-suite executives, what would you say would be the next, like the critical skill set and capability that we should be building today? So there's two parts to this. PMs, what should they be building? And then for executives, I think there's also a layer where they need to also see professionals from a different angle. What can they also work on developing themselves as well?
Yeah, for every collaboration, you always, I believe, needs to come halfway, both sides. Which means we talk a lot about project professionals. You should learn this, and you should learn this question. You should be confident, step up, like all of that. That's all true. But I think that for executives, I would say also like the effort has to come also from their side, because that collaboration happens when two parties meet in the middle, understand each other, then find that common language, and then leverage that to move forward, to improve whatever is important in their world. So I think that developing that common language, making that effort to understand what that other person means when they say that, give advice, good advice. For instance, okay, now I understand what you're saying, but it would be helpful for me if next time if you present it differently, because it will be faster, easier for me to understand, right? The giving feedback is very important, because without feedback, we can't learn. So for executives, it's important to be very clear on their expectations, and clarity is one of their leadership responsibilities. Without clarity, we don't understand each other, right? And then it's very hard to move and be clear on how I can support my boss, right?
Yeah, I love that. So it's as you said, both parties have to move a little bit, right? So that we can meet right in the middle. But I think it's a challenge. It's probably easier when you are at the bottom. You can say, PMs, double up and learn that. But how can we really get the executive leaders, right, to say, you need to move a little bit, right? Move and come a little bit to the middle. What skills, clarity is great, the communication. What else do you think we need to start advising for C-suite executives to actually double up when it comes to capabilities as well? That could really help us close this gap that exists.
For me, it really comes to empathy, but really empathy. Not empathy like feeling. I'm not sure if that's the correct definition, but for me, empathy really means to have that ability to put yourself in the shoes of that other person, right? So important, because people need clarity, for instance, but clarity for an executive and clarity for a project professional, these are two different clarities. These are two different things. We use the same word, but it has different meaning, right? So even when we mentioned before, when we talk about risks, a risk is a different meaning for different professionals, right? For different people in different positions. We look at risks differently. So how do I put myself into shoes of other person to understand what risk mean for them and what risk mean for me? And then I see the gap, and then I help to close the gap. Because I personally truly believe that one of the responsibility of leadership is to create an environment so that my teams can succeed. So for projects,
Yes.
the same thing. It's a leadership responsibility to create environment in which projects can succeed. Right. So understanding a little bit more about what actually is project management without going into the details.
Did
But just like understand like how does it work, what is needed for projects to succeed, I think that would be a great help. And for instance, what we see not only in experience, but we see it also in that latest research, projects are way more successful when there's clarity on vision. This responsibility or accountability for clarity on vision, it goes both sides. So we would say, oh, clarity on vision. So that's clearly the job of the boss, the executive leader, right? They have to give me that clarity on vision, but I would say not so fast, because then it's responsibility, accountability of project professionals to ask questions until we really acquire that clarity on that vision. So if I really simplify, we just need to talk, right?
we need to talk, right?
We need to talk, and that's why that confidence and really understanding that we are all on the same boat is so critical. Because if people don't feel that, sometimes they are discouraged to talk and ask. They are worried, like, what will happen if I ask a question? What if the question is seen as stupid, right? That's like, what if I embarrass myself? I would say, forget that. No question is ever wrong. It's better to ask question than not to ask question, because then all assumptions come. Like if I don't ask question, if I present something and I say, okay, team, is it clear? And there are no questions. So then, well, then I assume that it's clear. So, and if it's not, then it's a problem for all of us.
I think, you hit the nail on the head, because when we think about clarity, it's one that, as you said, is really not the PM's responsibility to kind of start trying to mine for gold. Exactly, as you come to the table and kind of say, this is kind of the reason why we're doing this project, is kind of the main focus. When things shift, this is what you should be prioritizing. But in reality, we know it doesn't really happen that way. We probably have a business case that's been buried somewhere in a document, and then we have a team trying to struggle. And so, especially for you project professionals, it's all about building those capabilities where you can ask the right questions, build those relationships, book those coffee meetings, right? Have those conversations outside of work at times that is probably needed, just to find out and build those relationships, because that might be the step, the bridge that prevents you from either stepping over or staying stuck where you actually are. Gosh, it's been a great pleasure. I can't even imagine that we're almost at the top of the hour. I want to say thank you so much for being here today. This was just the kickoff. We're going to be ramping up. We've got so much more to come, but we have a mystery session. What we always do now, what's one question, Lenka, you're going to be leaving for the next guest? There's going to be one mystery question that they have to answer during the next session. So what's that question going to be?
Well, hold on, I will answer that question, but I really want to use this opportunity and follow up on what you just said about.
Okay.
So project professionals who ever hear me, just please trust yourself. You are awesome. Project management, it's a unique job. It gives you so many opportunities. It brings you to so many different places, and there are so many strengths that project professionals have. So again, if you hear this like bureaucracy, or I don't know, I would say like, okay, fair enough, but build on your strengths. And trust me, project professionals, they have a lot of strengths to build on, because it's a unique position and it's so impactful. So congratulations if you're project professional. And now, mystery question. Is it a secret? Who is that mystery guest? Or...
No, what I mean is a mystery question, because they don't know about the question. You're going to find out about it on the day. Because you're our first guest on season 2, you didn't really get to have that. Yeah, we have our next guest. We've got Antonio. He's coming next week. He's going to talk about the modern project management. So he's going to get a chance to answer your mystery question next week.
Antonio is a friend, so let me give him a hard question.
Antonio, you've got a hard one. Okay.
Antonio, this is a question. So it's a very hard question. So the question is, did you ever delay decision because you were procrastinating? And if so, honest, what did it cost you?
Okay, that's a question we're going to be answering next week. Okay, no, no hard feelings. We're going to get Lenka. You need to be watching next week so you can get your answer. That's
I
that's the
will.
main one. That's a great one. I just want to say a massive thank you. We've got all the questions. We're going to probably wrap that up in the end. But what will be your final word? I know you spoke about PM, just encouraging them to say, don't be a little bit weighed down to say there's so much you have to do. Trust yourself. I see PMs as mini CEOs. Imagine you managing multi-billion dollar products and portfolios, right? Having a team of people building something from scratch. You turn ideas into tangible outcomes. You are pretty much mini CEOs. You have a team, and whatever makes it more unique is that a lot of the times you even lack the authority a lot of the times to make those decisions, and still you create those change. And so to create a path from where you are, as Lenka said, start with a bit of reflection. Go back today and reflect. What are you great at? What are the gaps you currently have in your career? Where exactly do you need to be thinking differently? How do you need to be more clear when you communicate? And also make sure you can read the room. When you go into these conversations, understand, what are the pain points, what are the risk, looking at the bigger picture. Observation is actually the key, because at the end of the day, you want to be communicating and doing that at the level that leaders really definitely want to receive the information at as well. I want to say thank you so much. Lenka, do you have any final words for us before we kind of wrap it up today?
You are awesome. That would be my final thought. Well, because like when you want to build on your strengths, you really have to trust yourself. And I truly believe in whatever I said. Like I started as, you can call me like accidental project manager, because I was actually a consultant, but consultancy job, it's a project-based job. And then I just progressed from smaller projects, bigger roles, bigger transformations, and like all of that. And it's really a unique job. It's a great job, and I'm so grateful for all the opportunities that I had, because it's very difficult to access those when you are a specialist in a field.
I know exactly. And it's one that when you tap in and when you're open to learn, I say you can use this on your own. If you're an entrepreneur, you could be an employeepreneur where you're good, you work within an organization, you can leverage the same skill set and provide solutions to other organizations as well, from planning, executing, from supply chain management, risk. There's so much finance. There's so much levels that you as a PM has actually had to work on and develop. So you're in a unique position to definitely be super awesome. I want to say thank you. So we have an awesome guest next week. Goodness, we're talking about the modern project management. He's a thought leader as well. He's going to be diving deep. We're going to be looking at, he's going through his book that's actually going to be launching. Oh goodness, Antonia, it's going to be a great pleasure. So make sure you log in, tap in next week, same time, 12 p.m. Eastern time, 11 a.m. Mountain time. And I think that's 6 p.m. West African time as well. We're going to be like just rocking it. For those who don't actually know me, I'm Fola Falabi, and I'm all about this. Like, let's elevate. Let's create something better. Lenka, you've been super awesome. Anytime I call on you, you're always there to support. You're always there to actually help, give back, and ensure that everyone is truly successful. I want to say thank you so much and wishing you great success, and everyone who's joined us today, all the very best. Lenka, don't leave the studio. See you shortly.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. My computer doesn't want us to end the show.